So I'm going to introduce some people. My name is Darren. I'm going to be the host today, and I'll hand over to Olivia to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Olivia, and I just finished my third year in fashion business and promotion.
Fantastic. Daisy?
Hi everyone, my name is Daisy and I just finished my media communication degree, undergraduate degree.
Fantastic. And we're also joined by T from our Centre of Academic Success. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, good morning. My name is T Kwakupom. My background is in academics and psychology, really. And I sit within the Center of Academic Success, where we support students with their learning, academic skills, professional skills, anything you need to help you enjoy your journey of learning.
Is university hard? It's something that we know just from a survey that we sent out to students hoping to join university in September. It's something that quite a lot of them are a little bit anxious about and maybe a little bit worried about, the step up from kind of school and college traditional style learning into the university sphere after your A levels, particularly given the kind of interrupted education you would have had over the last year and a half, unfortunately. So hopefully we're going to be able to alleviate some of those fears today. So I'm just going to kick us off by asking Olivia, really quickly, it's a few years ago now, but how did you find university when you first started out? What were some of your first assignments and how did you manage that first few weeks of workload?
Yeah, I think for me, I was a little bit worried about what it would be like and how different it might be from college. It was a subject that I hadn't actually obviously studied before, in terms of I'd never done anything creative or anything like that, and I was just sort of like, oh, what is it going to be like? I really didn't know what to expect, and I think I was a little bit apprehensive about what that might include. But yeah, I think even though it is different from college, everything is explained to you, and although you're learning and it is a learning curve, I think I never felt at any point that I didn't know what was going on or I didn't understand. I always felt supported in that. And actually, for one of my first assignments, I did reach out to Academic Success just to get a bit of advice on what referencing was and what an essay would look like in terms of university standard, because those are the things that you can't quite teach, if that makes sense. So I was just a bit confused about if I was working to university standard, and I'd never referenced anything in my life before. So those were the few things that I was just initially worried about, and that I talked to my lecturers about and Academic Success about. So yeah, that was sort of my first initial experience, but I would say it was really a positive one, and I never felt, like I said, unsupported, but it was a little bit of a learning curve as well.
Fantastic. And same question to you, Daisy. How did you find your first kind of weeks and months coming to universities and your first few assignments?
Yeah, for me, like the same as Olivia, I did not come from the same background in which I'm studying now. So I came from a science background going to study media. It was very the learning, I was very apprehensive on how I would find it going into a different subject completely, how maybe I would have had a gap in respect compared to my other classmates. But I think especially that first year, you make a lot of especially with your teachers and your lecturers, you make a lot of progress in the first year in which you can fill all those gaps. So if you talk to the academic success team or with your tutors especially, they can help you kind of overcome those fears that you have. So for me, especially was referencing, which I really never done before. And yeah, it took me a while. It took me the whole first year to get it right, honestly. But yeah, it was hard in the beginning, but obviously you just keep going. And as I said, you really have to communicate, because if you do, then you can get help. But if you don't and you're just afraid to ask for help, of course, then you're not going to be able to grow in your academic journey. So yeah, as long as you ask, you definitely can overcome those things.
Great. Yeah, referencing is no one's favourite thing when they first have to. It is a nightmare for everybody. So don't worry if you're a little apprehensive about it. Everyone kind of goes through it to begin with. Well, kind of following on from that, Daisy, what did you think was the first major challenge that you had at university, and how did you kind of overcome it in the long run?
I believe for me, especially because I've been living in England for almost 10 years, but I do have kind of the language barrier still, coming from Italy. So kind of talking in a more academic / formal level, that was kind of the gap, the bridge I had to like overcome. So yeah, like I had to have a lot of help with that, because I like with my lectures, they kind of had a talk with me and and it would be like, of course you have like a language barrier, but you have to work on this, and you can't use those kind of terms. You have to be a little bit more formal. And I believe now, obviously after 3 years, I hope I've overcome all that. But yeah, I think specifically the language barrier and also the workload, coming from college, which like is a lot more practical. Going to university, of course, there's a bit of, now I have to write a lot more. There's a lot more essays, there's a lot more personal study time, and now that you're an adult, you have to balance that with your personal life, with your working, part-time work if you have one. So for me, it was a lot of like writing down on my calendar, like, okay, this is the time for my studying. This is the time in which I'm going to meet my friends. This is the time in which I'm not going to have time to do anything because I'm working. So yeah, it's a bit of balancing your personal and academic life. And also, again, my language barrier, those were my kind of two aspects that I have to overcome.
Yeah, I can kind of speak from experience in that as well. Coming from sixth form education, particularly the one I did because I stayed at my high school to do my sixth form, kind of changing your habits that you had towards learning when you were in that environment, and kind of transitioning that into university, because that's something to keep in mind. It's not necessarily, university isn't necessarily a lot harder. It just requires sometimes a different kind of mindset and a different schedule. Once you kind of get into that, you will find, and once you kind of find your rhythm and you're happy with how you're doing things, it can make things a lot easier. So the same question to you, Olivia, what was the first main challenge that you had, and how did you kind of overcome that?
Yeah, I think I feel very similarly as what you just said. I think one of the main things I had to just adjust to was sort of my time management skills and how I dealt with all this new free time, because the first time you look at your timetable, you're like, wow, I barely even go in. But actually it's not really like that. You actually do need to use that time wisely and work and study, and obviously complete your work ready for your deadlines as well. So I think it's getting your head around, like you say, that change in almost lifestyle of the way that you're experiencing education. And I think that is something that is a bit of a learning curve, and you do just kind of adjust to and find what works best for you. I think for me, I just like to make a lot of to-do lists, a bit like Daisy in that aspect, I think, where I like to write down everything that I need to do, whether that's for work or for life. So I'll have everything I want to get done in terms of uni, in terms of what I want to study, what essays I want to write, and then I'll also have more like life things that I want to achieve that week or that day as well. And I think it's important to have both and sort of have that balance between it, so that you're not feeling so overwhelmed with uni work, but also you are getting somewhat of a social life as well. So I think finding that right balance is probably the biggest challenge I had, and sort of adjusting to what would work best for me, because what might work best for your friend or for your parents or for whoever won't necessarily work well for you. And I think it's also finding out a little bit about how you learn best and how you study best as well. Like, I'm very independent and I like a quiet corner in, away from everyone else with no distractions, but I know other people work well in groups and other things like that. So it's kind of finding out what works best for you as well and how you best learn.
And something to keep in mind is, as I know you said that it's kind of, you need to find what works for you. The good news is everyone who's starting that first year is more than likely going to be going through the same thing as well. You're all kind of in the same boat. So it's thankfully something you can kind of work on collaboratively. You can find out, well, someone might say, well, I found it easier to do some of my essay writing at night, sometimes in the morning, and it can kind of be a collaborative process for you to find exactly what works for you. And you've got time. That the first year is kind of angled towards adjusting you into the university lifestyle to kind of get you eased in before the kind of it ramps up in terms of workload in the second and third year. So yeah, we are joined by T today from a Centre of Academic Success. So is this something that you see students coming to you with, the kind of transition from sixth form and college into the university style of working and managing workloads and assignments and stuff like that?
Yes, I mean, thank you, ladies. You've hit the nail right on the head. But what I want to start saying really is that this transition is for everybody. Every student goes through it. And sometimes what happens, not some, most times students feel so alone. And so instead of seeking help, they isolate themselves, thinking they are going through that by themselves. And I don't know if you ladies would agree, but everybody goes through it. It's a big jump from college or from sixth form to an environment where you've never been, maybe a new city, a new town, a new country, strange people you've never met. Parents are no longer around, no family member, no friends, and you're expected to live and to go to school and to work and to look after yourself. It is a lot, but everybody goes through it. I can't press that hard enough. I went through it. You went through it. The next lot will go through it. Everybody goes through it. So I want first year students really to consider first year as a transition. It's no different than you